This is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Let's see what my stream looks like. Ooh, good stream status. All right, let's see who's in. Scroll. Susan, Gunther Photography, Olivier, Henry, Cupie, Teresa Lynch, Maria, Tidvigic Zix, Gabrielle Filion, Dark Wolf's Den, Silver E55. Looks like that's everybody who's talking so far. Welcome, everybody. In answer to your question, yeah, the dog does eat pretty late. We eat around 9 or 10 in the summer, and then the dog eats after that. So she's used to it. I mean, dogs always adapt to the human schedule, so. All right. KSP Crafter, good morning to you. Good middle of the night for me. Germany. Wow, cool. Do you have any good MEs over that are special for Germany? We're always curious about what's going on in the other countries. There's some crazy people who say that all the MEs are just English speaking. I'm like, well, yeah, if you speak English, then most of them are going to be in English. 8 a.m. in UK. Yep. It is midnight over here. For some reason, I'm not really tired, but my eyes are kind of unfocused tonight. All right, so I'm going to start talking now. Oops, wrong scroll. All right, here we go. Okay. So the first one, actually, I'm going to cover this one. It's kind of a whole lot of sentences, and this person, Stand Up for Freedom, noticed this one, and he kind of went over it really good. I'm just going to read off what he said in comments. So we had kind of talked about the platypus, and I said that I do remember there being the platypus in my old timeline, but I did not remember him having venomous spurs. So I thought that it had changed, but it was one of the few really weird animals we used to have. But he did a bunch of research on it, and they have 10 sex chromosomes. Never heard of that. They don't have a stomach. They lose their teeth around the same. They lose their teeth around same they leave the burrow. So they use gravel as a makeshift teeth. Females secrete milk out of pores like sweat since they don't have teats. Males have venomous spurs. Okay, I've heard that one lately. Let's see. Only has one hole for mating, laying eggs, and using the bathroom. Walks on its knuckles when on land. There's just all of those things. No. Okay, so I guess platypuses have changed. I don't remember any of that. I remember them saying, oh, it's the only mammal that lays eggs. Ooh, so weird, so weird. But none of this weird milk pore secretion stuff. Although I'm starting to hear about that more and more lately in different animals, so it must be a thing. Let's see. Their bill contains thousands of cells in their rubbery bill that are responsive to electric fields in the water made by small critters. Yeah, they used to just say they had a sensitive bill. They did not say that it was sensitive to electromagnetic fields. I mean, I guess there could be some kind of recent discovery about that. Electrolocation, I guess, is what they're calling it. So that's probably the latest thing after echolocation. We now have electrolocation. Good morning from Britain. Good morning, Dawn. Okay. Kai, Lucas, Zachary, you never saw those black boxes. Yeah, I saw them about a year ago. That's the image that's in the thumbnail. I might jump to that since we're already kind of on that subject. I don't know a ton about them. I just looked them up a little bit. I know what they're called. But they've only been around about a year for me. And I keep seeing them the last year, too. Let's see who else is here. Okay, so anyways, that was the platypus. You guys can do some more research on it, but it's a bunch of weird stuff. If you guys remember, let me see if it'll come up decently. No images here. They were already weird animal, but now they're really a weird animal. Platypus facts. Yeah, they look about as I remember them. I don't think I quite remember the feet that big, but they look about as I remember them. But this whole thing with the no stomach and everything, no. They were weird because they were weird looking with the beak, with the rubbery bill, and they were mammals that laid eggs, so they were considered really weird for those reasons, but that was it. All right, now, I don't think I brought up that tefillin thing. Okay, let me figure out who found those. There. All right, so what are the black boxes? All right, the one who found those and mentioned them was Bob Bobertson, who is a regular commenter on the channel. I have seen those before. I did bring it up. It probably was over a year ago, thinking about it. Maybe, yeah, it was before I started doing videos, and it was a bit of a ways. So it's more like a year and a half maybe that I saw those. So those little black boxes also, they've changed a bit, because when I first saw them, well, apparently they're also called phylacteries, and they put, it's weird because they say it's a small black leather box, but it doesn't really look leather. It looks plastic. I mean, I'll take their word for it, but they're putting a lot of effort into making that look like plastic if it's leather. But I guess they're putting in their holy writings in there, and then they wear it on their head, and then they started wrapping. The thing that was for me is when I first saw them, they just had a few wraps around the arm for this leather thing, but now they have a lot more fancy wraps around the fingers, and they have another one of those things on the arm, and that wasn't there when I checked into it last time. So I guess they put the Torah commands up on the head like that. I've just never seen that before. So I don't think that's from my timeline, especially because when I looked at it a year and a half ago, they only had the head one. They did not have one that they put on the arm. Let me dig up some images so you can tell what I'm talking about. So basically, though, it's a set of small black leather boxes containing scrolls of parchment inscribed with verses from the Torah. They are worn by observant adult Jews in many communities, only men, during weekday morning prayers. Let's see, anything else exciting here? Well, nothing too much more, but they're just weird. At least for me, because I've never seen them before. Okay, so there you see, this child has one on the head, and there's one on the arm here, and looks like there's a specific way you're supposed to wrap these. I guess there is a leather strip. This image kind of shows it here. You're supposed to have it on the front of the head here. There's a lot of rules. Weirdly, it says it's worn only by men, but in the wiki, but I see a lot of women with them. Although they look smaller in this image. So I don't know if they're really holding to that as much as you would think. It looks like the women's ones might be a tad smaller. Anyway, I've never seen them. I mean, I've seen the yarmulke and other Jewish religious items, but I have not seen this tefillin before, about a year and a half ago. And we were talking about it as a potential ME back then too. A lot of people had never heard of it. Let's see if I can see. It didn't say specifically what group. Ashkenazic. It says a lot of different groups, though, that are a lot of different people. So it shouldn't be that rare according to this. I mean, it is wiki, but anyways, very suspicious. And to me, it has changed. Several of the other religions, the items have changed. At first, I'd see them and I'm like, I've never heard of it, but maybe I didn't know about it. But then later I see them changing, so then that makes me even more suspicious. The other one was that the big black box in Mecca that they circle 7 times now. That box wasn't there. They would just circle the courtyard for me. Then they said that that box was there and it was a lot smaller. And then it got a lot bigger and now you circle 7 times. So I've watched that one change. So it's funny because people come on and they say, oh no, that was always there exactly like that. I watched it change, and maybe in their memory it was always like that, but I know that it changed. I know that it got bigger. I've been watching it for some time. So this is another one that has changed for me. It was not in my timeline. All right, let's see what everybody else says. Water Bear, hey, how you doing? Autumn Nichols. Me too, those black boxes turned up about a year ago. Yeah, it was about then. You know, there's a lot of religious things out there, but usually I've at least seen them. I may not know every detail about them, but when I saw that one, I really did look into it. From what I remember, my rabbis only wear kippot hats and tzitzit. The Torah commands were only kept in mezuzahs on door frames. Anyway, that image of those tefillin has been showing up a lot too. I've seen it a number of times since they showed. When I was 14, I found out that the duck-billed platypus was extinct. That got me all onto all save the whale, save the planet. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think they were fairly endangered before. I wouldn't be shocked if they were supposedly extinct in some timeline. I was looking into Saturn cube theory many, many years ago. These things weren't there. Yes, that black boxes has definitely changed, much bigger. Yeah, there have been a lot of black boxes showing up, but I mean, there's a lot of everything showing up, so. You know what? It reminds me weirdly of that. If you watch Doctor Who, there was an episode where all these weird black boxes show up. And it just reminds me of that. I don't know if that kind of was a precursor or what, but. Yeah, the tefillin looks like the black box the Muslims walk around. Yeah, that's in Mecca. It's a giant black. Well, it was originally for me kind of a curtained box shape room, but now it's a building with a black curtain over it. So it has changed. It's a lot bigger now. So, you know, it just trips me out. I don't know. It just, people come on that are Muslim and swear it's been exactly like that. I know it has changed. I thought they wore it more on the brow, forehead, not like these pictures. Yeah, there was an image where they were saying it has to be right here, it can't be back there, it can't be there. But when I first saw it, like I said, it didn't have the arm one at all. So that's a different one. I have noticed that you can still find many things that are still as they used to be in German. We've seen a little bit of that, like interview with a vampire. It's changed to the vampire in English, but a lot of the translations still have a vampire. So I'm not sure what that means. That if it was always a vampire, we shouldn't have all these translations that have it different. So that's one of the reasons I'm more in the camp of combining, that it's combining timelines in some way than it is just alternate timelines. It was, yeah, the Kaaba, that's it. It was originally all black. Then I saw, I did a video on it earlier this year, I think, and I said how it was gold. Now, they do replace that covering every year. That is what the current storyline is. But it had just been black the year before, and I went and looked at the history of it, and it had not been black in a really, really long time in current history. So there's no way I saw it as being black the year before, and I only ever saw images of it black. Every image of it was black. And now they have all that gold trimming and stuff. I should probably just look at that thing. I haven't seen it in a while. Kaba. See if I can remember how to spell that. I think it's like that. See what it looks like. I haven't really looked at it in a while. See, it was used to be just like 2 stories high. I think it's even bigger than the last time I looked at it. Yeah, it does look bigger. That does look about like the last time. I think this is what I saw it last time. Not sure if I remember that though. So they apparently they changed this cover on a regular basis. Oh, this is the one I saw early in the year with the white. But if you look back, you can't find anywhere it was all black in any recent history. I don't think I found any images of it being all black. I think maybe way back. I can't remember my exact research, but nothing recent at all. Let's see what we can... Let's see what we can find with Mecca here. Yeah, see, no images of it all black. And it was way smaller. And also this top portion here changed because originally for me that was just a black covering, but now there's a whole building structure there and there's a drainage area and the whole thing. It's a whole building now instead of just a covered area. So anyway, yeah, that thing's changed a lot for me. And originally I didn't have it. That's my story. Okay, last week I talked a little bit about how I found this image with this face on it, and I swore it looked like a face. And of course now, if you look at I think this is it. If you look, there's nothing there. It's just all scrapied. And so, who was it who found this? I think this was Stand Up again. Again. Yeah, it was Stand Up for Freedom again. He finds a lot of Emmys. And he was actually digging into this one, and he found this. So apparently in the current storyline, they originally were going to put one of the faces over here, and then they said that the rock was low quality, so they found the surface here, that the rock was not good enough to actually do the face, so then they changed it and put the faces all over there. Now, one thing that's interesting is a few months back I noticed that the faces suddenly changed to having a lot of streaks on them. My original faces did not have all that imperfection. See, like right in here, right along there, all these crisscrosses on the face, those weren't on there for my original faces. And even just only a few months ago they showed. So I'm wondering if this history has to do with we have this inferior quality of rock now. And so this face here above is a photograph of the early stages of Mount Rushmore. As you can see, there is a face to the left of Washington. That was where they originally intended to carve Jefferson. But the rock was unsuited for carving, so they dynamited the work that they had done and moved Jefferson to the right of Washington. Also, I've never heard this one. In 1937, Congress tried to pass a bill to add the head of civil rights leader Susan B. Anthony to Rushmore. I've never heard of that either. I'm a little suspicious about that one. I mean, I don't want to be mean, but the whole women's lib thing is... it's fairly new in my timeline. Later, it was just barely getting started when I was young. It was a big deal to put Susan B. Anthony on a coin. There wasn't something back in 1937. I don't think. I can't swear there wasn't, but I'm really suspicious about this one. I do think that the history has changed on this. The other thing I've noticed just lately is that the scraped off area on this mountain gets lower and lower, and we have seen like the lapels of Washington coming down, and I think that it's a preparation for more of the body to eventually be carved in. So that's also something has changed. I mean, a lot of people have guessed that already, so I'm not the only one to make that guess. But just notice this, that the scraped off area, you can see it in here, goes way down here now. And looks like there's even some down here too, weirdly. So I think we'll find, you can almost see the shoulder now of Washington right here. It's just about the right shape for him. I think that it's coming. He's still coming out. See the inferior stone here? So another image that Stand Up for Freedom found was this one. Now this one is actually really supposed to be the original model. But here, I mean, it's hard to even tell who's who on here. I mean, you can't really tell who's Lincoln. So this is supposed to be the original model now, versus that other model I had showed in the past that showed it looking much like it is now. So this two storylines kind of competing, because one really says that this is the original and there is zero mention of the face that used to be over here. And then Stand Up was able to scrape these two images out of the vaults, but he said he had to hunt really hard. And I had actually looked for it quite a bit, because I was trying to figure out what was going on with the side of Lincoln's head over here. I thought somewhere there's got to be an explanation for this little medallion and this, and now we've got this little, it looks like a little clip on the side of his head up here that is fairly new. So I thought for sure I could find that, but I just couldn't. I couldn't find anything on that. Another change, you can't see it that well on this one. Might have to make a bigger one. See if I can find a decent image that shows it. There. This one's pretty decent. See this little thing right here? Lincoln's got a mole now. Who came up with that one? I did not notice that one. That was Perfecto. Perfecto. Purrfecto. Another commenter on the channel noticed that there's a mole on Lincoln. Supposedly he had a mole in real life, and this is just copying it. I don't remember that. There, granted, it is kind of small, so I could have missed it, but I'm still suspicious on that one, considering the other changes in the hair and this thing on the side of the head. Another thing I have noticed just the last 2 weeks or so is the eyebrows, both on Lincoln and on Washington, are very kind of wavery. If you look over here, Lincoln just looks really like concerned. It's really an emotional look. Over here he looks spaced out and he looks serious, but these two, the eyebrows have changed quite a bit. Now they just look troubled somehow with those eyebrows, so that's also another change for me. Wasn't going to say anything, but that Doctor Who episode is exactly what I was thinking of when you were explaining it, Dark Wolf's Den. Yeah, actually, when the commenter posted it, that something was written along the lines of little black boxes are showing up all over, and I immediately thought of Doctor Who. So I didn't even frame it like that, and you thought of Doctor Who, so that's interesting. But again, we do see that these things tend to show up weirdly in myth and TV first. It's like you have to think of it and you have to imagine it before it comes or something, or it wants that to happen. Yes, it was covered on top black for me too. I don't remember it having an opening. We're talking about the Kaaba and Mecca, I'm assuming. Yes, originally there was just fabric up there, but now that's actually the top of a building, and it has a little lip around the side, and then water collects in the middle, and there's a little pour spout where it drains out. So that's why the top looks different now. Before, it did not seem to be an actual building for me. It looked like it was just a covering to cover over that rock thing. The Air Force One airplanes for the president apparently have a black box. Well, all planes are supposed to have what they call a black box, and it's to, if the plane crashes, it's supposed to preserve all the data and records of everything that happened up until the crash. And then the black box is supposed to be kind of crash proof. So that's an older black box for me. I don't know if it really is black and box shaped, but that's what they call them. Let's see. Life is like a box of chocolates in German. Okay, interesting. You notice the change to Interview with a Vampire 20 years ago. I don't think it could have been that far back for me because I was kind of late to the party, and I watched a lot of these more recently than that. I found Marilyn Monroe's real name spelled Norma Jean Baker in the German encyclopedia. See, that's really suspicious because if her name was never Norma Jean Baker and only a few people remember it wrong, how did it get in the encyclopedia, which was probably printed way back? And it says something different all over online. So it's suspicious to me. PoppieElm is in. Hey, Poppy. All right, see if I can catch up here. I don't remember President Park with all the heads. I'm not sure what we're talking about on that one. Has anyone noticed the ME is increasing very fast? Teresa Lynch. I'm just not sure on that one. It's definitely not slowing down. It could be that a lot of the MEs that I'm noticing today actually happened 2 years ago or 1 year ago. So I'm not sure if it's either just cranking along pretty fast or if it's accelerating. I'm just not sure. I mean, the MEs are stacking up, but I figure for every ME I notice, there's probably another 999 that I didn't notice. Or I might notice 5 of those next week. So it's hard to know when some of these change. Some of them I know changed very recently, but a lot of them I can't say. Now, like these guys here I've been watching, so I know that these changes are recent for me anyways. But you just never know. There could be, there's people on here all the time saying it changed a year ago, changed 5 years ago. So everybody's on a different schedule too. So maybe it is increasing for you. Maybe you're shifting faster. I don't know. In my original timeline, all of the heads looked in basically the same direction. It's still so strange for me that Roosevelt's head is turned so much you can't see him from the front. That has kind of, it's been intensifying. On some of the images now, he's so squished back there. If you look at it from over this direction, from over Lincoln's side, you can barely see him. Lincoln's head kind of covers him. And his head and Lincoln's have been kind of sinking down. When I first started watching this a few months ago, they were at about the same level, all 4 of them. But now we have Washington coming out. This head here is turning away also, and is still higher. So I'm thinking that they'll come out one by one, but I'm not sure why these have dropped down. I'm just kind of waiting, and I keep waiting to see what this thing is. I don't know, for whatever reason. It's driving me crazy until I can figure out what they're going to say this thing on the side of his head is. I just can't see how there could be all this weird stuff on the side of Lincoln's head, and not one peep anywhere that I could find about what that might be. There's not any storyline to it that I can tell. I call BS on 1930s movement for Susan B. as well. The suffragettes do go way back, though. Yeah, but they were just, kind of not respected back then. They got some things, but having a whole head put on Mount Rushmore, I don't think that, in my timeline, that would have never been even considered. It's almost as though he's becoming a fully formed man. Silver E55. Well, they've been floating online that the original plan for Mount Rushmore was to have all of them have their bodies in there as well as the heads. So they're supposed to go down to the bodies. And I think that's interesting that the article came out and been floating around and making the rounds on Reddit and social media. And after that, then you started to see it really happening. Again, it's another example of how it gets floated to the popular imagination first. Now, a lot of people have read that and have in their mind that the original plan was for the bodies to also be carved. So now we're seeing it happen. I don't know, it's just weird. Washington's hair looks very different to me. It's been changing. This bump over here on his side of his head has been growing and getting more fissures in it. It used to be kind of more flat on his head. Oh, I see. Hair here is starting to look better. Hair here is looking better. The only person who doesn't have good hair now is Lincoln. He got a few strands over here. For a while, these were all encased in rock, except for Washington. So that's one thing I didn't quite notice. The hair is coming along on these quite a bit. Carolyn, imagine if all of a sudden Eva's head were up there. Yeah, no, thank you. I would never want to be that popular anyway. It would be miserable. That would be miserable. Can you imagine you couldn't even go to the store without people bugging you? I can date interview with a vampire, I assume we're talking, because I was temporarily living with my parents. They have a copy of the book which changed. Yeah, I'm not doubting you. It's just it changes at different times for everybody. That seems to be very well documented in the ME community. I mean, I see one of the ones I was really sure of was the somewhat famous flip-flop of the spelling of Hillary Clinton's first name. And for a long time, I thought it was Hillary, which it is now. And the election was going on, so you'd see her name every day. And then one day I looked in my Facebook, and it was Hillary. I'm like, oh, some idiot spelled it wrong. But then I saw another location where some advertising also had it Hillary. I'm like, what? There's two of them. So I actually went to her website and saw that it was spelled with one L. And I went to the wiki and I saw that it was spelled with one L. So I figured between the two of them, they had to be right. And for several weeks, maybe even a little longer, it was always the one L everywhere. So I thought I must have just been stupid. I'm like, wow, I really don't know how to spell that. And then the next thing I hear, it's back to two L's. And I look and it was back to two L's. So that was kind of a famous flip-flop that a lot of people saw. And I know that I saw it right before the election is when that happened. But we had people coming onto retconned 6 months later, 8 months later, swearing that it only just changed for them. And it's finally kind of petered out. We're not getting any new people lately that say it just changed for them. But for quite some time, we'd had people saying, I just saw it yesterday. Did you see the lungs up past the clavicle? Yeah, I looked into that. I'm not sure who broke that one. we were talking about the clavicle changes, so it kind of makes sense now. You've got more ribs up higher. What I was seeing when I looked into that is that some images show the lungs up this high, and then some images are still like the old images showing him much lower. So I think that that one is in progress because the images don't agree. Onimundi posted a new video about breakfast at Tiffany's. Her hair has blonde streaks. You know what? I never watched that show, so I can't comment on that. I'm going to leave it to you guys on that one. The ME has been seen for at least 100 years, so it's not new, but it has speeding up these past few years. I don't know. I haven't heard of any evidence that it was 100 years old, and certainly I wasn't alive then, but it was definitely not cranking along at this rate in the 90s. I did see some of the MEs, including the most famous one of all, the actual Mandela ME. I did see a number of them in the 90s, but it was much slower for me for back then. Colliding multiverses. Yeah, I mean, colliding multiverses, combining timelines, it's kind of different words for the same general concept. I mean, I can't say I know exactly what's happening. And again, it's just a guess. It fits best with what I've seen so far, but you know, it's not much of an answer. Lincoln was shot on the left side of head. So is that supposed to be a gun where he was shot? I don't know. If they put a symbolic gun on the left side of his head, or bandages or anything, then that should be listed in all the descriptions of Mount Rushmore, and there's nothing. I mean, I can't imagine nobody said, what's that thing on the side of his head? All right, let me just look and see. Was Lincoln shot on the left side of the head? I thought he was shot I didn't think he was shot in the head. That's a good question. Facts and summary. Oh, weird. This is different. Apparently, according to this, they had planned to abduct Abraham Lincoln, but he failed to appear at the spot where Booth had planned to kidnap him, foiling their planned abduction. 2 weeks later, Richmond fell to Union forces. Okay, that was early on in the war. Hatched a plot to kidnap him and take him to the Confederate capital. Huh, weird. I'd never heard of that one. Turn off that. Booth leapt onto the stage and shouted, "Sic semper tyrannis," thus ever to tyrants. The Virginia state motto. I do not remember that part either. I just remember him shooting Lincoln. I don't remember him yelling out stuff. At first, the crowd interpreted the unfolding drama as part of the production, but a scream from the First Lady told them otherwise. Although Booth broke his leg in the fall, he managed to leave the theater and escape. I don't remember that part either. It's all, a whole bunch of this is just different. All right, so yes, he got shot in the head, recounting that a bullet clattered into a waiting basin during the doctor's removal of Lincoln's brain. Huh. It doesn't say what side he was shot in. There's not a whole lot of info on there. Huh. Okay. Well, I don't know. You could read this forever, but there's a lot of changes in that story to me. I do not recall a lot of that stuff. He was shot on the left side of the head. Okay. WikiLeaks got to the point a little faster. Okay, well, I don't know. Could it be something symbolic of him being shot? Like I said, if it was, it should show up in at least some commentary somewhere. Somebody should be asking what that thing is. I just couldn't find anything. I've been looking for weeks. Not even a peep of any word of what that thing is. Nobody's even asking what that is. Okay, so anyways, that one. I think I had a few others on that one, didn't I? Not that one. Alright, I already covered that one. Covered that one. Covered tefillin. Alright, I'm going to delete some of these then. That one's done. This one's done. Okay. All right, this one I just saw today. This was from commenter known as Excited Banana. And it's just weird. You know, in the last 10 years, they've occasionally talked about how if you swallow a seed and somehow inhale it into your lungs, there was a guy who actually had a tree growing in his chest, and they thought it was cancer, and they opened him up, and they find this sprouted tree in there. So I guess this is taking it to a new level. And because they were saying, well, the tree, you know, in the lungs, light gets in there, and there's oxygen, and there's moisture. So they're saying that that's all it really needed to grow. I don't know where it's getting its nutrients, but the idea that it grew out of a living thing is kind of creepy. Well, apparently this is even more weird because they're saying that they found this rat with a soya plant growing through it all the way into the soil, and the rat was still alive. So there's sort of some kind of question if somehow a seed got into the rat, and then the rat was feeling ill and took a nap or something, and I just don't get how this could happen, and I'm tempted to say it's fake, but yet it doesn't really look super fake either. And there's video of it. So basically, this guy says he went to check on his farm, and he finds this rat pinned to the ground. It's still alive, but it's got a big wound. And eventually he digs it up and pulls out the soya plant. And no word if the rat died or not, but... So let's see. The plant appears to be growing out of a wound coated in a matted black blood. You can see the rat moving around. So they're saying it grew in the rat's back. He took the rat back to his house. So he dug up the plant and with the rat in it and removed the sapling, ruling out the theory that it could have been mischievous teenagers playing a cruel prank. Of course, this whole sentence could be written by the mischievous teenager, so that does not rule out anything really. This said the head of the Department of Biology said the rat was extremely lucky not to have died because of its encounter with the plant, let alone avoid damage to its brain. I just don't understand how the rat holds still long enough for this plant to grow into the ground and pin it. That's what's so weird about it. Let's see. Somewhere I think I had video saved. Video saved. Where's the video gone to? Here. I'll just play a bit of it so I don't get copyright strike. So basically there's the rat, and he's just kind of, he's manipulating the top of the plant, but the bottom of the plant is rooted. And they are all yakking away in a foreign language, so you can't really understand any of it. Anyway, it's really weird. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, plants growing in flesh now. I don't know. It was just so weird I had to include that. It's the ultimate weird. Okay, this one I believe is from Julie Holcomb, who also has a lot of stuff on our channel. She sees a lot of MEs. Pretty sure that's her, but let me just double check. Not sure if I wrote it down, but I'm almost positive this is Julie Holcomb. She's always finding stuff. Yeah, it's hers. But so she was mentioning these weird bats, cotton tent making bats. There's a little bit of video of them. So they make like this tent out of plants, and then they all snuggle in here. What's neat about these things is they're super cute. And then they have like these weird yellow heads. Look at that thing. It doesn't even look real. Look at that nose and those ears. And then they all snuggle in there. They're really cute. So apparently these tent making bats, there's a number of kinds of them. There's this white one, and then there's this one. Just another weird mandanimal that I have not known about. You can see that there's all these stuffed animals for them now. Anyway, another weird one. Cotton ball tent making bats. I think they're supposed to be cotton tail, or let's see. I think I might have, yeah, cotton tail tent making bats, I think is what they're supposed to be. I just posted a link in Eva's discussions that is a photo of Lincoln in the hat, but strangely it looks like there is a zipper on his jacket. There were no zippers back then. Yeah, are you sure? Because when were zippers invented now? Let's see. $1893. Product debuted in 1893, but it didn't have much success. The modern zipper was eventually designed in 1913 by Gideon Sundback. All right. All right, you win. He died in 1865. Zipper invented 1893, so I agree with you. All right, let me go over there and just see what that image shows. Now I'm curious. YouTube. Let's see. Hopefully you posted it. I don't think you could post yet on here. Yeah, I don't think you can post anything on a live stream. Oh wait. There is a spot for comments. For me anyways. I don't know if there's one for you. So that's kind of the question. Where did you post it? Let's see. Mandanimal. Yeah, it wasn't me who invented that. I'm not sure who came up with that word, whether it was lone eagle, somebody like that. All right, so suddenly I can't remember how to migrate around here. My channel. This is what I need. All right, maybe you posted under that one, the most recent one. All right, here. This is the easiest way to find it. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Wow, that does look like a zipper. Look at that. Yeah, that, I mean, huh. Can we get bigger? That's as big as it gets. It does look like a zipper. Oh, that's a good call. Now that's the new mystery for this week. What is that? I mean, I guess they could say it's some kind of pin or something, but I mean, the whole style of the jacket just looks like your classic zip-up jacket, too. I mean, so many of them have the zipper and then the buttoned overcoat area. Wow. Oh, and there's that mole I was talking about that's in this timeline. I actually don't remember that mole being there, but I don't remember, way back, I don't remember there being any pictures of Lincoln, so. So Susan Gunther Photography, good find on the zipper-looking jacket. I mean, it can't, it's not 100% that that's a zipper, but boy, it sure looks like one. Okay, so we see the zipper-looking jacket. Zipper was invented in 1893. I wonder if there's anything on Lincoln with zipper jacket. This is a long stretch, but we'll see. No. It's a really modern looking jacket that Lincoln had. See, it looks just like these ones. I don't see anything with him, though. Yeah. That looks like it's such a modern style. Very interesting, very interesting. All right, people. See if anybody can figure that one out. Look at that, because it really looks like it has the rectangle pull thing and everything. Another seriously altered thing in my current time reality is my family members. I am certain they are not the same people as before I knew about the ME. Very different personalities. Yeah, there's been a lot of reports of that. People I know have different histories now. Things that I know happened, they swear didn't happen. But their personalities are pretty close. There's been some minor alterations, but nothing really major. I saw that style at Target the other day. That exactly, Water Bear. I have a coat that is really like that. It's a raincoat and it has kind of an inner zipper lining and then this outer overcoat button part. It's just like that almost. A little bit more lapel and a little bit more feminine, but I see three suns when I watch the skies. Yeah, they're saying it's that refraction thing where there's a sundog that refracts the light and makes it look like three suns. But, you know, there were no sundogs in my old timeline. My teeth are repairing by themselves. Well, good deal with that one. I've actually got a little bit more crooked teeth on the bottom of my jawline lately. There used to be just one crooked tooth. Now there's two. And it's happened like pretty much overnight, so I don't think there's anything changing on my jawline. Not conventionally changing, anyway. I had a hip problem that went away overnight. There were hip anatomy changes when I yeah, things are changing, and some people are finding that problems are disappearing. Other people are finding problems or showing up. Okay, so let's go back to the original spiel here. This one, who found this one? Pretty sure somebody found this one for me. Okay. So they're saying now, this was found by John Smith, which is a commenter on my channel, that water is not H2O. So, of course, we've all learned that H2O is water. But now they're saying the idea that water simply is H2O is one of those false reductions that people can't seem to get out of their heads. What is actually true is that if you break apart the bonds in water, you'll get a ratio of hydrogen to oxygen that is roughly 2 to 1. A large amount will be from H2O, some from OH, some from H3O, etc. The overall interaction of all those, not just properties peculiar to H2O. So basically what they're saying is that there's all these different ions and stuff, and that's not just H, there's not just two H's stuck on one O. And they're also saying that if you do have a compound that is all two H's stuck on one O for all the molecules, that it acts completely differently than normal water that we're familiar with. So that's the thing that really changes for me, is that they're basically saying that H2O is a whole different animal and operates totally differently than what we call water. Now we've talked a lot about the changes in water and how it's acting differently in the atmosphere, the snow donuts and the weird ice spikes and a whole bunch of other weird ice and water things. We've talked about how water feels differently on the head now and on the body. So now they're basically saying that it does not follow the rules that H2O follows. And there was another thing they said in here that was interesting. It was, I thought I had this highlighted, but water is an interacting society, not a molecule, and it is a society of related molecules, not just H2O. Among those molecules, H2O is just the most prominent family, not a single kind of molecule. And light water, which we usually think of as H2O, is just the most prominent branch of that family. What looks like a simple fact is in fact not simple at all. And somewhere in here they were saying how they don't understand water and it's a big mystery. I thought I had that highlighted, but now I can't find it. Anyways, I don't know. Did this just change since earlier today, or am I just not seeing it? See, I don't remember this part where it said poisonous either. I don't remember what this light water thing is, too. I swear I'm just like... Oh, here's the say. God, that was going crazy. Okay. Our current best understanding of electron transfers that give water the properties we observe is the statistical average of ever-changing interactions so complex as to be quite literally unthinkable. Indeed, the problem is not that we are unsure which distribution of types of microstructure is the correct one. The point is that there is no one correct microstructure, because the microstructure depends as much on the context and functions just as another nominal essence would. So it's so complex as to be unthinkable, and it has all these weird properties that H2O does not. So basically they've kind of opened themselves up to say water can do all kinds of stuff and we don't know. So yeah, I think that is ME related, definitely. Have I heard about the Lindbergh baby being found? Yes. I've heard the stories change a few times, but You know, the Lindbergh baby thing was something that was a little before my time, but I always heard that it was not found. It was the famous joke, ha ha, you must be the Lindbergh baby. So, yeah, still an ME for me. All those jokes would not make any sense if the Lindbergh baby had always been found, because then you wouldn't be joking about people being that kid, because that kid was found dead. SMQAI channel said he saw trees grow 50 years worth almost overnight. You know, there's been a ton of reports of new trees. I've got 2 new trees up the hill. They weren't there before. Those showed up about 2 years ago, actually, when they were already about 3-4 years old. Somehow I was up there watering, and I convinced myself that those 2 trees had been there for 3 years, and I never once watered them, and somehow they survived, which is ridiculous. And then later, when I learned of the ME, I realized that was ME. And a lot of other people have said they've seen trees show up. Everyone here thinks the haze is smoke. I keep asking them if they smell smoke. Should see their face when they realize they don't smell smoke. Yeah, the storyline is that a whole bunch of dust is coming over from like the Sahara Desert and pretty much blanketing everything very high up and causing the haze. So interesting, somebody I know personally said, oh, it's from a nearby desert. And then when I looked into it, I'm like, the Sahara? I don't think that's a nearby desert. Let's see, since I had my channel open, somebody who covers that a lot is Mr. MBB333 channel. Pull him up over here. He should have had a video on it recently. He puts out a lot of videos. Somewhere in here was one that he did in the last like 2 or 3 weeks. Alright, I'm not finding it quickly, but Titanic dust storm to fill entire Gulf of Mexico. That was one of them. Get past this. Skip. See if I can find the images he had of. Okay, so basically all of this was dust storm and coming from over here. And it has spread since this video was done. There are later videos where it comes all the way to California. So this dust is supposed to come up from the deserts up into the upper atmosphere and is spreading all over. And so they're saying that the haze is from that. I just never had these kind of things in my old timeline. Strangely, they're really not making a big deal out of them on the news or anything. I guess in this timeline they're fairly common, but that's the excuse for the haze. So you wouldn't smell smoke because it's up in the upper atmosphere. Anyway, that's the storyline. For me, for the last 2 years, been a really weird high haze in the sky often, but we have a different cloud structure here, and we have those very high clouds, the high wispy clouds. Did not used to have those for me. And I've been noticing the last 2 years, things just look misty a lot of times. The mountains, it's kind of an antediluvian look to me. How many of us here have had a near-death experience? I am actually one of those that can't say I've really had a near-death experience. Because when they say near-death experience, they usually mean that you were like laying there, your heart stopped, your brain stopped, and the doctors said you were dead, and then you came back to life. That is the classic NDE. A lot of people use it as meaning I almost died and I didn't, but not that they were brain dead, but maybe they had a car accident and walked away when they shouldn't have, something like that. I actually don't have any really unexplainable survivals, but there certainly have been a few times when, I narrowly missed having a car accident, and in another timeline, maybe I died. Can't say for sure. That's probably true for everyone, though. And, that's just the traumatic ones. I mean, people could have died from illness. I mean, you get sick, you get a cold, then you get better. Maybe in one timeline you didn't and you died. Okay, so anyways, that's that one. Let's just move that one out of the way. So water is not H2O. I just think it's funny that they're saying that it's a straightforward fact. Corrections to it are endlessly ignored. But it is simply false to say that water is H2O unless we are speaking very, very loosely. I've only was taught that a million times. I guess all my teachers were stupid, even the really smart teachers, and nobody knew about it. Okay, here's one I just saw on TV. Let's see, did somebody tell me about this one? I think I just saw it. I don't think anybody told me about this one. It was just on TV. Now, I have heard that octopuses held in tanks will sometimes try to escape over land, but apparently now they have a whole species of land walking that just walks along the land and looks for food and stuff. So there was this one image. Let's see. This guy crawling along out of water is not uncommon for species of octopus that live in the intertidal or near shore, Finn says. Wood has seen several different species of octopuses getting around this way in the course of his research. Most species of octopuses are nocturnal, so we humans are less likely to catch them creeping out of the ocean. So here's one guy crawling along. Oops, it didn't go to my save spot. So their excuse is that, because they're nocturnal, you never saw them, but they were doing it the whole time. I don't remember them saying that octopus were nocturnal, actually. But yeah, they get along pretty good. Now there is actually a whole species of these things, the amazing octopus that can walk on dry land. It was called the Abdopus octopus. This was on TV. I'm only going to play a little clip of it because it's the BBC. So this guy just routinely just cruises around the intertidal zones. He gets around quite well. They were saying how he's got tentacles specially designed to crawl on land. As you can see, they are quite effective at it. So anyway, I call baloney. That's another new feature for me with the animals. They did not used to do that at all. Then you started to hear about a few escapees trying to do something sneaky, and now we've got a species that just does it all the time. Yeah, QB. Octopuses didn't take walks like that. Yeah, you should probably have a lot of little beasties over there where you live, since there's a lot of beach territory over there. So you should be pretty familiar with sea life too. Beautiful snorkeling region over there. And diving too, but I don't know how to dive, so. All right, so we've got all those creepy ones. All right, this one was just on Unimundi's channel, and he just mentioned the black nose of Statue of Liberty. Now, I agree that was not there before. I do not recall that. but I have mentioned before the colorations on these are constantly changing. There was a while when there was a big streak across the cheek, and then there wasn't, and then there's streaks over here. So I'm not really surprised to see the black nose thing. But when I was just kind of looking at it really quick, I did run into this, which is interesting. That apparently there was a repair in 1985, and they're saying the nose and the eye was repaired. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but the color of the Statue of Liberty is said to be a patina on the copper. So if they futz with this and do any soldering or anything on here, then that changes the patina, and it'll take a while for it to mellow out to the similar patina of the rest of the statue. So that might be what's happening in this timeline, that there was this repair done in 1985 here and here, and you're seeing the side effects of that. Now, I looked and I just couldn't really find out much more other than this: details showing face and eye repair, November 18th, 1985. And I've seen a couple sentences mentioning the repair, but no real details on it, like what exactly was done. So when they were saying that they were, I do remember them saying that they were going to kind of do maintenance on the Statue of Liberty, but I don't remember that this being mentioned ever. So anyway, I just wanted to chime in on Unimundi's video on that. Black nose. Okay, I think I covered all the stuff that I had already pulled windows up for. So let's talk about what other ones now. Somebody mentioned this one, and I just thought it was so cool I had to mention it again. And I think it's because I just think this would be so cool if there was one near me. So there's this hot water beach. Now, I kind of saw this making the rounds on YouTube. I'm not sure who came up with it. Kudos to you, whoever noticed the hot water beach. So basically, this beach has a natural hot spring under it. And so when the water recedes, then you can dig a hole in the sand. Like when the tide is low, you dig a hole in the sand, and these hot water will percolate up through the sand and make like a hot tub for you. So you can basically sit in the beach in this hot tub, nature made, for a couple hours before the tide comes back in. And it's called Hot Tub Beach. So you can see a whole bunch of people doing their hot tub beach thing. Is a must-do activity when visiting the or.Mandela. It's in New Zealand. So really cool. I'm hoping that we'll get more hot tub beaches, because that is just the coolest of the cool. I love water and stuff. I love being in the outdoors, so that would be the funnest. What do you personally think about the reason of the Mandela effect? Gosh, that's a tough one. I mean, I don't know. I think it's some kind of an evolution thing. I think that's part of it. A lot of people are really looking at the Bible as the end times. I think that might also be something that might also be describing it. I don't really see those two as mutually exclusive. They might be attempts at describing the same phenomenon for different angles. If you look at the Bible, end times, it's sort of a sorting of kind of the better influenced people and the worse. And I think that there is probably some kind of sorting going on. And I think that has to do with what timelines you end up in. It's got to be really complicated, though. I think it's something beyond anything I've really thought of. And if you look at the ME, we can't understand it because it doesn't follow our assumptions that we used to have. And so we're looking at it going, it doesn't make sense. It's because our assumptions are wrong. The trouble is I don't know what to replace them with. So I'm kind of left with a lot of question marks on there. So I do think, the human anatomy is getting more improved. There's a lot more neat things in the world, like these hot tub beaches. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's a lot of cool stuff that humans like are showing up. On the flip side, you see a lot more crazy behavior from people. And so I'm not sure. I'm thinking it might be some kind of end times evolution thing. That's my guess. Like I said, it's just a guess according to what I'm seeing. And I can't promise you that it's right. And it's probably not the whole story. I think that we just don't, maybe we just don't have the concepts for it yet. Well, that's interesting. I was born in 85. That's when it got repaired, huh? The doctor took my DNA months ago. They called a few months ago, said more tests needed. Huh. Still haven't told me anything. Yeah, well, if it's the USA, that's about their normal speed, though, I have to say. Anyway, you guys may want to, I don't know, I guess if your name's not on there, it's probably not a big deal, but be careful about what info you share online because the chat does show in the public video. Nobleness D, how are you doing? Welcome. Maybe Nobleness D knows who invented that word mandanimals, because I'm not sure. I know it's one of you older, one of the people who have been around longer doing the videos, so I'm not sure if I was there when it came out. Okay, so let's see what else we have. So like I said, I don't know who figured out hot tub beaches, but I want more of them. So everybody think positive about the hot tub beaches. Got those. Oh, this one was funny. All right, this one started as a joke from Chanty Moody on my channel. She made a joke, what's next? And she said, well, what's going to be next? Blue flamingos. And so I looked it up, and we have blue flamingos. It's almost like anything you can think of now. Half of them are already there. Half the things you can think of exist somewhere. So supposedly these guys are legit guys, and they're quite blue. I'm going to put the scientific name, AEN. Foen. I think I already started it. That way we won't get too many fake images. Okay, still getting a lot of fake images. South American blue flamingo. Oops, Pinterest. I don't like Pinterest. What is this? All right, everything's on Pinterest. That is not ideal. Let's try this one. Have been found in Isla Pinzon archipelago. Of course, they're super rare. Look at their very bright blue, too. Everything that suddenly shows up is always like, there's only 3 of them at first. And then there's a couple hundred, and they're saying that they're going to die out any minute. But what I think you'll find, if it follows the pattern, is that in a couple years, there'll be a lot more of them. They eat diet of the bluefish and shrimp that live around the island, which is supposedly the cause of the flamingo's blue feathers. So here we've got a bird that eats primarily blue fish and blue shrimp. Seems kind of unlikely. The birds are extremely friendly and playful once you have gotten to know them. If you approach a blue flamingo and she is unfamiliar with you, it is very likely that the bird will try to peck at you. Never hold out your hand as you might for a puppy. Anyways, anyway, we've got blue flamingos now. I'm quite positive that we did not have blue flamingos. So, how many were there? All right, they have one in the USA already at a zoo. Duca's Way, Chicago, USA. It's not really saying... Okay, over 100 blue flamingos existed in 1984. We think that the tip-tailed cougar, who is red-green colorblind, has preyed upon the blue flamingos since he cannot see the pink flamingos, causing many blue flamingos to lose their lives. Anyway, I bet you're going to see a lot more of those. I'm not really worried about them dying out. All right, this is sort of a political one, and I don't want it to get too political because it doesn't really have to be. We can talk about it without getting into a political argument. All right, in this timeline, and I've been hearing this about the last 6 months, but I didn't quite get it. I thought they were joking. The first time I heard it, I thought it was a joke. Second, third time I heard it, I realized that it really happened. In this timeline, Clinton said it depends on what the meaning of the word is. So apparently this was in the whole Monica Lewinsky trial where he said the truth depends on what is the meaning of is. All right, that is not what he said in my timeline. What he said in my timeline, it depends on what your definition of sex is. And that is the only one, and everybody was laughing because he's basically was arguing that oral sex doesn't count as sex because there was no penetration. So in this timeline, he says it depends on what the meaning of the word is. He never said that in my timeline. In my timeline, the argument was just that he never went all the way, so therefore it didn't count. And everybody laughed at him and thought that was, really obviously an attempt to get out of it. Okay, but in here he said it depends on what the meaning of the word is, which sounds completely ridiculous and was not what he said in my timeline. So the whole event here and his excuses were more ridiculous in this timeline than mine. I just want to say that I don't really trust any of the politicians, so I don't want it to say that I love any of the other Republican ones greatly either. But you just got to wonder. I mean, it's the same guy. He looks the same, yet in each story, in each timeline, he has a little bit different storyline. So it's weird. Spanner finger is itchy. Which the heck one is? Oh, okay. And if you're making a joke. I'm assuming the spanner finger is the same one as a freeway finger. They said he spoke ISIS into existence. Yeah, see? Nope, never heard of that one. Is. Which timeline we are in? Do you know how many exist? Shirese Ivory. I think there's probably a whole ton of them. I do not know how many there are. There have been so many shifts. I mean, if that's a different timeline, every time there's a shift, every time I see a change, if that's a different timeline, that's got to be hundreds and hundreds, but I think there's probably more. That's my guess, anyways. Oliver. Henry, I researched the Clinton thing last week. It's totally not what I remember. Yeah, the whole trial and what he said in where is different now. Not not the overall arching situation, but in the little details of what he said and when. A lot of the things he said now are more ridiculous than they were before. I mean, the old story that oral sex does not count as sex is kind of one a lot of people use and have heard. So, although we know that he was just trying to wriggle out of it, I mean, it wasn't the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. But now, it depends on what the meaning of the word is totally ridiculous sounding and very much something you'd make fun of. $1:30. Yeah, I've got I don't have an hour and a half to go over one to toe MEs. Okay, I don't know what that means. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds like I'm bagging on Clinton, but I bag on all of them. So I just want to say that if you say you hate the other side, I'll probably agree with you on most of it. But just because whatever the other side is, I don't trust them. Both of the sides. Okay, so that one is definitely an ME for me. He did not say it depends on what the meaning of is in my timeline. I think that's been around about 6 months though. I just when I first heard it, I thought they were making a more ridiculous joke on the original actual statement. It never occurred to me that he would have actually said that. Got those females done. Got that one. Okay, this one. All right, so we talked before about penguins hanging out in cities. Now we have big cats, leopards hanging out in the city. And this one is another one by Stand Up for Freedom, who finds so many of them. Okay, so they're saying that these cats are hanging around in cities, these leopards in Mumbai, and they're eating a lot of dogs, like stray dogs. And they're saying that Mumbai has a lot of problems with stray dogs. And so these cats are 40% of their diet is supposedly dogs. And they're saying that dogs carry a lot of rabies. And therefore, these cats are saving all these people. So stray dogs are the leading cause of rabies deaths, killing 20,000 people per year. In my old timeline, rabies was very rare killing people. There were certainly not 20,000. It was more like about 100 globally. So I think rabies must be a bigger deal here or something. I mean, 20,000, are they really saying that's rabies? So they found the average leopard diet in Mumbai contains 40% stray dogs. So they're saying that basically these cats that are hanging out near the city are saving a lot of lives by eating all these dogs. So I have a number of questions. My first one is, if all these dogs have rabies and the cats are eating them, and as far as I can tell, cats get rabies. There's lions get rabies, so they didn't specifically say that leopards do or do not get rabies. I couldn't find it, but other cats and most animals get rabies. So if these guys can get rabies and they're eating rabid dogs, then how come they don't have rabies and then become a risk themselves? So that's my primary question on that one. But secondarily, this whole article basically is saying that these cats are hanging around by cities. In my old timeline, they just didn't do that. They were much more reclusive. So there seems to be a pattern with the ME of animals coming into town, hanging out. Got the penguins, and now we have the leopards. But anyway, this whole story is just kind of weird. All right, next one. This one I almost put as the thumbnail because it was creepy. Hold on, wait. I think that will be enough to find it. All right, so you've heard of stick insects. Well, now there's a supersized stick insect, the gargantuan stick insect. Look at that thing. It's huge. Now, when these things first came out, it was quite a long time ago. I think I was just, you know, maybe in my teens, 20s. And there was just one kind of little stick insect. And that was it. And there are millions of kinds now. So this is a new one. They're saying it's kind of new, but so you could say it's not an ME, but so of course they found a few males have been spotted here. Okay, so this is a giant stick insect species in the wild, be a little like hitting the jackpot. A few males have been spotted here and there, but only 3 of the much larger females. So they're basically saying that they're in Australia. They get 50 centimeters long. Now, somebody that was actually in Australia was saying that let's see, who found this one now? This one was found by Narwhal Dundee, and he is on my retconned retconned group for Mandela effects, and he was saying that this one freaked him out, especially because he's seen a bunch of these. He's in Australia, and they're saying there's just a few of them, but he's been seeing tons of these things around his place. So that's another thing that he's suspicious of, is they're saying they just found a few, and he's like, they're all over the place. And only just recently. He never knew of them before. But look at how big that is. Supersized. So I just had to have that on because it's so cool. Eggs of the Stenomorpha gargantua. Huh, weird. Okay, so anyways, can't prove it's a mandanimal because it's sort of supposed to be new, kind of, but they were kind of vague on that one, actually. Okay, now this one is definitely a mandanimal for me. They now have the red wolf. I've never seen or heard of that until just recently. So this is a different species. It's not the gray wolf. It is the red wolf. It kind of makes sense for me now because before there was just the wolf. There was only one species, the wolf. And quite some time back, they started calling it the gray wolf. The one and only species was called the gray wolf. You didn't really need to use the word gray before because there was only one kind. So first they started saying it was the gray wolf, and then you get these other species. So the Mandela does plan ahead. So the gray wolf is supposed to be a little smaller and more gracile than the gray wolf, but still a little bit more husky than you would find, like, say, a coyote. But they were not in my timeline, these gray wolves. See, they look a little coyote-ish, but a little bit more buffed out, like a fat coyote. And they seem like they're a little reddish too. So anyway, no red wolves in my timeline originally. I actually don't remember seeing these before now. I'm not sure when they showed up though. I mean, they've been calling it the gray wolf for a while, so let's see, where are these guys at anyways? Let's see where they're at. Also known as Florida black wolf or Mississippi valley wolf, is the canid native to the southeastern United States of unresolved taxonomic identity. Huh. So it's in the USA too. Huh, interesting. Intermediate between the coyote and the gray wolf, and is of a reddish tawny color. Federally listed endangered species of the United States. I want to make a bet that there'll be more of them in the future. Okay, here's another one I saw. This is another that is just interesting. You could argue it's not an ME, but so this is kind of a new one. They've supposedly just discovered the komodo dragon kills with venom. So for a long time they were saying that the komodo dragons just had a very a lot of bacteria in their mouth. And when they bit things, the things would get infected and die later. And then that's how they would get their chow. They just wait. There's a couple things I've been noticing lately about komodo dragons. One is that they're really hamming up the drool coming out of the mouth. Like 5-10 years ago, they did not drool disgustingly. Now they're like slathering drool monsters. The second thing is they're now saying that they actually have venom, and when they bite, the animal bleeds a lot. And they made a big storyline about, we've always noticed that after the komodo dragon bites, the victim bleeds a lot. Well, no, that wasn't the case. I've seen lots of documentaries on the komodo dragon, and they would bite it, and there would be no blood at all. So now they have some kind of an anticoagulant venom in their mouth. I don't see how they would have not noticed that before, but that is the latest story. We are seeing a big pattern with a lot more animals having more venom now. We were just talking about the platypus, so this really follows the current storyline. I've lived in the South for 30 years, never heard of them. Yeah, the red wolf. And, wolves, that's something you'd hear about, because wolves are really popular, at least in the USA. They're spirit animal. They're kind of really revered. And then, of course, the ranchers hate them. So, again, there's a big storyline there where you would hear about them. Never heard about real venom from komodos. Yeah, they're saying they just discovered it, but the thing is, I was watching the video, and now they show a lot of blood coming out after they bite, and that's different too. So, I mean, you could argue, oh, well, they just discovered it. It's not an ME, but other parts of the story have also changed. Welcome to the Red Wolf's Den. Yeah, really, you of all people who named your channel about wolves should have known about the red wolf. Yeah, there was red fox, but this is a wolf. Of course, I did not have fennec fox and some of those other weird little foxes either. Yeah, it's red wolf, not fox, and not coyote. Susso wrote a book. Scarab has started reading it out. He's trying for voiceover work, LOL. Well, could happen. I don't know how crowded the field of voiceover is, but they do need voiceover for a lot of things, so. My friend was freaking out over McDonald's ME in 1998. Yeah, that one changed a long time ago. I vaguely remember the old version, but that was a long time ago, and I do kind of remember thinking I was confused, but I just assumed I remembered wrong back then. And the Statue of Liberty bombing never happened in the other timeline. Agreed. Yeah, that one's kind of a famous ME. No Black Tom explosions. No, Japan struck Oregon in this timeline. Japan didn't strike anything in my timeline. I mean, they didn't. They struck Hawaii, but that was it. They didn't get mainland at all. But in this timeline, they had really, really minor success off the coast of California. They floated some bombs. Was it like some kind of gas bombs or some ridiculous thing using balloons? This timeline has a lot more balloon stuff in it. Scarab's view is not that God is behind all of the ME, but maybe some of it. Yeah, I don't know. What is your definition of God? if there is a God, are we even conceiving of him accurately? So you know, it's a tough question to answer because of that. All right, so that's most of that one. The Japanese took some U.S. islands off the coast of Alaska now. So weird. Nobleness. Yes, I think you or somebody covered that one in one of the videos. That did not happen in my timeline at all. The Japanese did not get any islands over there. You know, everybody's so much closer together now. All the countries are. So there, and then, you know, so many things have shifted around. But yeah, it was always just Hawaii. That was the only thing they got. Yeah, I almost forgot about those Alaskan ones. But there's so many more weird islands up there, up around Alaska and on top of Canada too. I actually drew a map about 2 years ago, freehand, of Canada and those islands up there, and I have not shown it because I'm afraid that if I have a copy online, it might start changing. But it has not changed in 2 years. So if you freehand a copy and you do not make any other copies and you do not show it online, I have shown it to people in person, but there are no other copies of it. It has not changed. And some people were telling me if you make a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, it won't change. And other people are saying if you just have one copy of something and that's it, so like there's no official, like if you trace it, it's kind of like the same as the original, but if you freehand it, there's only one. So if I put it online, there'll be a million copies of it up there because the video will have it and everybody who watches the video will have it. So I don't know, I'm chicken to put it up because I don't want it to change. Anyway, it's something you guys might want to do. Make your copies and then don't have any other copies anywhere. Apparently showing people is okay. I think maybe they can't have a total perfect copy in their head, so. CERN is not the culprit. CERN itself is an ME because now it says they were started in the 50s, but my memory is the 80s, 90s, not before. Don Norton. Yes, I agree with you, Don. It was about the 80s, 90s. They came together to do the Hadron Super Collider that is now called the Hadron Super Collider. They were not in the 50s, and they were not involved in the construction of the World Wide Web in my timeline. They had nothing to do with it. They didn't exist. But in this timeline, they were involved with the WWW, at least last time I checked. So yes, I'm suspicious of CERN being the culprit because they didn't exist in my old timeline. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe something they did in other timelines could spread across timelines, but it's just hard for me to really take it seriously as them being the cause when they are more like an effect for me. Play it again, Sam. Famous but never said. Yep. But, you know, Trouble About said that. The problem is the Mandela effect goes back in time, or the changes go back in time. So how can you say when something starts when it can go backwards and forwards in time? Is there even a start? I mean, is the start somewhere in the middle? Is it maybe the start is in the future? Or maybe it's just all one big thing and so there is no start. It gets really hard to pin anything down once you have something that goes backwards and forwards in time. Okay, so let's see. What's the next one? Komodo. Okay, this is sort of a minor one. I don't think this one's been covered. Part of it has been covered, but okay, my originally Nestle, like Nestle Quick, the original logo for me did not have this big line across the E and the S. But then lately I've been seeing like a line over here. And originally it was just a straight line, but now it's one of these accent symbols where it's smaller on one end and larger on the other. So it's kind of a double ME or a triple. This line is an old ME. Then there was a line here, was a newer ME. And now that that line is not a line, but more of an accent symbol, is now a third ME for me. So I just wanted to point that one out. Nestle. And to be honest, this whole bird thing, I don't remember it either. Let me just look at the Logopedia thing. Nestle Logopedia. Let me look at the history of Nestle. I have looked at this before, but yeah, I don't remember this bird thing at all. Looks like it goes way back, too. Way back. It looks totally unfamiliar to me, these birds. What bugs me is I can't remember what was there before, but it wasn't birds. Let's see. Was the internet created for you guys in 1996 by the military? I remember they had software and hardware they couldn't use for missile tech, so they used to create the internet instead. I remember they created for military purposes, and then a college and like somebody in one of the schools got involved and said, hey, we can adapt this for basically the military had connected computers because they needed a network so they could communicate, and then that tech, some of the colleges are like, we could use that, we can expand it, and that was just colleges and the military, and that was it. There was no CERN. CERN was not involved at all. That was the original storyline for me. Now, granted, I heard that storyline, you know, quite a bit of a time after the internet actually was out there, because I heard it on the internet. So, all right. Okay, this one is an interesting one. So apparently there was a natural nuclear fission reactor made by nature. I just stumbled onto this one. I'm just making sure I haven't forgot to credit anybody. Okay, but this one I definitely found on my own. This is weird. All right. So they're saying there's a natural uranium deposit and a self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction occurred in the past at Oklo in Gabon. Okay, the conditions under which a natural nuclear reactor could exist had been predicted in 1956 by Paul Kazuo Kuroda. The conditions were found very similar to what was predicted. I've never heard that before. Now, there was some rumor starting about 10 years ago that there were places on the Earth that looked like a nuclear bomb had exploded there, that there was no record of it. So there was much chit-chat that maybe the ancients had nukes or the aliens had nukes or like that. But now they're saying that nature had nuclear fission, somewhat controlled and stable nuclear fission 1.7 billion years ago and ran for a few 100,000 years. Let's see. Let me see if I can find that interesting part. Anyway, you can kind of look it up yourself. It's called oklo, O-K-L-O, oklo reactor. All right, so let's see. Uranium-rich mineral deposit became inundated with groundwater that acted as a neutron moderator, and nuclear chain reaction took place. The heat generated from the nuclear fission caused the groundwater to boil away, which slowed or stopped the reaction. After cooling of the mineral deposit, the water returned and the reaction restarted, completing a full cycle every 3 hours. The fission reaction cycles continued for hundreds of thousands of years and ended when ever-decreasing fissile materials no longer could sustain a chain reaction. So this whole 3 hours, and I don't know. It sounds crazy, but anyways, there it is. So we now had a natural nuclear fission reactor. I don't know why we can't have one again, but maybe we will. All right. Never heard of it. Yep. Where did I get that? That CERN created the WW. All right, I'm going to double check it to make sure it's there. This was a big ME about a year ago. Let's make sure it's still there. The birth of the web. The World Wide Web was invented at CERN in 1989. Yep, still there. The web was originally conceived and developed to meet the demand for automatic information sharing between scientists in universities and institutes around the world. So they actually still have the internet invented by the military, but now in this timeline, CERN stepped in and invented the WWW for scientists. In my timeline, they were not involved. Put the World Wide Web software in the public domain, made the next release available with an open license. Through these actions, making the software required to run a web server freely available, along with basic browser and library code, the web was allowed to flourish. So CERN now has credit. Trouble about. Australia looks like it has been nuked, but then the nuke cities in Japan don't. They are living on the land that should be unlivable. How is that possible? I'm trying to remember if I actually talked about that last time. I definitely thought about talking about it, but I'm not sure if I decided I would. I remember them saying after the bombing of Japan that people would not be able to live there for like thousands of years or something. And now they're saying that. And the other thing I remember is I remember those bombs hitting the ground. So the current storyline is that they exploded the bombs in the air, and because they did that, they did not contaminate the land much, and that it had the radioactive isotopes had a short half-life, and there wasn't much contamination, and so now it's fine to live there, and the radiation is very similar to normal levels. And that was not the story I remember when I was a kid at all. They said that, you know, we had ruined a chunk of Japan for our lifetime and many future lifetimes. But now they live there just fine. And so, yes, I agree with Trouble About on that one, that is an ME for me. So they're giving CERN some legitimacy by saying they actually created something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on with all these timeline changes. I mean, maybe they, in this timeline, they really did, or maybe the past has changed, so they really did, or maybe all the past is a giant load of hooey and none of it existed. I don't necessarily think that it's some kind of scam to make CERN look good. I mean, CERN didn't even exist at that time for me. But, you know, Arctica did exist and now it's gone. So I'm blaming it on the ME. That's my most best guess anyway. All right, so where are we? All right, this one is hilarious, and this one, I don't even know if it should be an ME or what. It's an ME for me, but it just makes me laugh. All right, this is the classic joke. The absolute classic joke in America is about duct tape. Now, when I was a kid, I thought it was duct tape, like a quack, quack duck. And then when I got older, I was informed that no, it is duct tape that was invented to seal ducts. And I actually looked this up a couple times because I wanted to correct other people, and I wanted to make sure I corrected them accurately and that I hadn't left anything out. So I have actually researched this a number of times, and that's why I'm now laughing my head off that it has reversed. And it was now originally duct tape, like the quack. Originally it was duct tape, and they were saying that the tape was made to waterproof things like ammunition cases, and it was made in the military, and the military invented it, and it was called duct tape because it was waterproof. And then later it was adapted to used in ducts, and so the company that adapted it called it duct tape, but originally it was duct tape. And that's a complete flip-flop. For me, originally it was used on ducts, and it was duct tape. Now, originally it was used to waterproof things, and it was duct tape. So whatever one you ever thought it was, you're kind of right now, and you're kind of wrong. I think people who are like kind of in construction would appreciate that one more. I don't know how well that storyline is known, but I'm just going to put it up really quick. And this was out in 2013. I'm like, no, and no. So that's where I got it from, but there's a whole bunch of videos. There's a whole bunch of images. BS, never been ducks, never heard of duct tape. Yeah, there's actually a company that sells duct tape. I just heard about that recently. I don't know if it's related to this ME, but yeah, it was always that we would laugh at stupid fools who thought it was duct tape, but now it always was. So this kind of making me think that the ME has a sense of humor. Bats aren't blind. Lemmings don't jump off cliffs. Duct tape was always duct tape. Yeah. Okay, I already did that one. All right, this one comes from Sean N., a commenter on the channel. It's another new discovery, but I still find it really interesting. All right, so they always used to say that the left-handedness or the right-handedness had to do with how your brain was laid out. And I remember them saying that they did MRIs and they discovered that the way the brain worked was different in a lefty versus a righty. Now I can't find that information anymore. It may be out there, but I didn't find it when I looked. So the latest storyline is that your spinal cord determines whether you're a lefty or righty. It's not the brain that determines if people are right or left-handed, but the spinal cord. This has been inferred from research. Now you do have to watch a little bit when they say inferred. But basically they're saying that changes in the spine at an early age when you're in the womb predict whether you'll be a lefty or righty. And at that time, when those changes are discovered, they are saying the spine is not connected to the motor cortex. Now, I don't think I remember that ever being the case. I remember that it grows like a little embryo with the head and the spine growing together. I don't remember the spine being disconnected. But they're saying, I think it was 8 weeks or something, that the spine is not connected to the motor cortex, and that the spine at that point can be predictive of whether you're a righty or a lefty. And so they're assuming that the spine itself somehow determines this, and it is not the brain. I think it's suspicious. I mean, there's been a lot of changes in the spine and the brain, like a whole lot. So although this is new and you could say it's not an ME, I think it's interesting. Maybe there'll be more functionality in other parts of the body now and what they're capable of. Just a guess, but anyway. I'm not sure really what it means, but interesting. All right, here's another one. This one has created a lot of controversy. All right. When I was a kid, we went fishing. One of the things we often found that we often caught when we fished was rainbow trout. Now, the rainbow trout that I caught were basically fish colored, kind of a gray. They were delicious, and they did not look like salmon. Apparently, in this timeline, rainbow trout can be anything from gray to pink to red and can be mistaken for salmon. So now they're actually petitioning that they would be able to sell rainbow trout as salmon. And that's pretty weird. I mean, that's not rainbow trout to me, but apparently it can look just like salmon. And here's another thing that's also different. Adult fish are distinguished by a broad reddish stripe along the lateral line. All right, I'm going to show an image of these little guys. This is not what my rainbow trout looked like when I was a kid. Images. And this might be have been a long time coming, but they're starting to look more rainbowed now. What I used to see was a fish that did not have this pink line. What they had was kind of an area along the lateral line that when you moved them, it would flash iridescent. And that's why it was rainbow, because there would be a rainbow flash. But you wouldn't always see it from every angle. It was kind of subtle. You got them out of the water and you moved them, you could see that iridescent line. Now, that was a long time ago. I have not fished rainbow trout in eons. But they did not have this pink line like this. That looks really weird to me. Really weird. Like some of these, I've never seen anything like that they're all pink lined like that. So anyway, I call ME on trout. I mean, I don't know, maybe it changed a long time ago, but when I was a kid, which was a few years ago, they did not look like that. And they were not pink inside. Rainbow trout did not look like salmon. You have not had rainbow trout until you have had it in the Rockies. Catch me some. There's nothing more delicious than fresh caught fish. It's so different than that stuff in the store. I mean, people who don't like fish, I think if they had only had fresh fish, they would like it. It's not even fishy. It's just so delicious. And all you need is butter. That's all that needs when it's fresh. Maybe a tad of salt. All those sauces and everything they make for fish, it's because fish is so fishy. If you catch it fresh, it's not like that. So we did a lot of our fishing up north, Northern California. Different lakes, though. I think we did some Central California, too. Yeah, and it's good. But, you know, I've never really had a fresh caught fish that wasn't good. Catfish. There's a whole bunch of yummy ones. Perch. It's worth picking through the bones for a fresh caught perch. All right. Have I done the other page yet? Oh, I think I'm about done. I have 5 minutes over. So, yep, it's time for me to head on out. It's been 2 hours, and I got to get up in the morning. So I'm going to check out here quickly. So thank you all for coming. I'm going to scan up here, and I'm going to check and see if I have any more comments to make. Think of that delicious, fresh trout tonight as you go to bed. I do miss the fresh fish. Costs so much just to get a fresh fish now after you buy all the bait and you pay for the gas and you pay for the license and you pay for the parking, and you pay to go in the park, that it is sad, but I do miss my fresh fish. Anyways, thank you all for coming. It's been great, and I really appreciate all coming, and I'll be back same time next week. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.